You're looking at a painting that might make you feel uncomfortable. I love paintings of nude women, and yet this painting manages to make even me feel a little uncomfortable. And yet this mix of pleasure on one hand and discomfort on the other seems to be a calculated move made by the artist of this painting. Welcome to Persephone, one of the great masterpieces made by the American artist Thomas Hart Benton. It's a painting full of contradictions. It portrays a rural scene in the American Midwest, but ostensibly we are looking at the Greek goddess Persephone, and that old lusty farmer, he's supposed to be Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. Greek mythology superimposed onto the rural American landscape. Painted in the late 1930s, this work caused a scandal when it was debuted. The nude was, well, a bit too naked, a bit too juicy and delectable. You can see how it made the conservative Midwestern American audience feel uncomfortable. The lusty nature of the old farmer who plays the part of Hades, well, is the artist condemning his lust or reveling in it? It's hard to tell. Well, I don't know. Is it hard to tell? On one level, it's pretty easy to see that Thomas Hart Benton is celebrating the voluptuous beauty of this nude woman, but the problematic questions that arise from an ugly old man practically drooling over the prospect of reaching out and touching her with his craggy old calloused hand, is Benton simplistically condemning him? Or is there a suggestion of sympathy for this hopelessly unattractive figure? The riddle may not be so hard to solve, especially if it is true that Benton injected some of his own likeness into the portrait of the old man, as some people seem to think that he did. We'll revisit this soon. First, though, let's discuss the myth of Hades and Persephone, since, after all, that is supposedly what is being portrayed here. After that, I'll tell you a bit about Benton himself, his background, his personal style, and the art movement he was part of, which was called Regionalism. Then we'll circle back to the painting and discuss it a little bit more in terms of composition and also how it was received. Before we get into all of that, please hit the like button and subscribe. It would mean the world to me if you do. In Greek mythology, Persephone is the beautiful daughter of Demeter. Demeter, or Ceres, as she is known to the Romans, is the goddess of agriculture. One day, while Persephone is out gathering flowers, the ground suddenly splits open, and out from the chasm, Hades, god of the underworld, rides out in his chariot. He abducts Persephone and brings her down into the underworld with him. Demeter grieves for the loss of her daughter, and all the world becomes desolate and barren until Zeus finally pressures Hades to release Persephone, allowing her to return back to the world of light. But Hades tricks Persephone into eating some pomegranate seeds which tie her to the underworld and force her to come back for part of the year to be with him. This explains the seasons. Winter is when she's gone, and spring is when she returns. In Benton's version of the myth, Hades is an old farmer, while Persephone is a young countrywoman about to go for a swim in a river. Hades' chariot is even indicated here as the old farmer's cart. An earlier version of this painting shows that initially Benton considered making Hades look younger, not quite as revolting as the figure he finally settled on for the final version. Perhaps he chose this older man with gnarled features and a larger nose in order to enhance the sense of horror indicated by the thought of being confined to the underworld. Or perhaps, as an older man himself, Benton wanted to indicate the frustration of being an older man and becoming more repulsive, despite still feeling all the desires of a younger man. I'm not quite convinced that he injected a self-portrait into this old man. This is a photo of Benton just a couple years before he painted this. He was in his late 40s, no spring chicken, but not really resembling the old grizzled man depicted in the painting either. But now let's say a word about this composition. You've probably noticed by now that Benton has an unusual style. Fluid, florid, wavy lines. Every part of the composition seems to move and undulate. It's almost like a sort of visual music. This is a common feature of all his works. It is part of his signature style. Though Benton's style is unique, he fits into a wider movement that was gaining traction at the time called Regionalism. In the 1930s and 40s, this style was an offshoot of modernism, but ran at odds with it. Whereas modernism tended to be very urban, regionalism was decidedly rural. You might recognize Grant Wood's famous painting, American Gothic, probably the most famous artwork from the regionalism movement. If you would like to see more artworks from this movement, let me know. I'd love to do more videos on Thomas Hart Benton as well, because I really do think he's one of the great underappreciated geniuses of the 20th century. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the controversy that surrounded this artwork. It's interesting that this style would have been seen as somewhat regressive or even reactionary when set next to the modernist backdrop of those times. Benton himself had studied in Europe and was well aware of all the latest modernist trends, but he still chose to return to this more mimetic style. And yet, the painting caused a stir when it was first debuted in conservative rural America. In fact, it's said that this and his other nudes played a role in his dismissal from the Kansas City Art Institute, where he had been employed. The funny thing is, I think this painting might still elicit the same amount of controversy if it debuted today, just the outcry would be probably coming from the opposite side of the political spectrum. I mean, there's obviously a rich feast for a feminist critique here, right? The male gaze and all that jazz. I mean, the male gaze really is threatening in this artwork. So yeah, I mean, I get it. Lots of problematics to delve into if you want to go that way. I kind of want to resist going down that road, though. It seems a bit facile to me. What Hades is about to do to Persephone is bad. It's obviously bad. Benton himself went out of his way to portray Hades as more repulsive than he was in his original draft. So there's no question that this is going to be an unwanted encounter. And yet Benton simultaneously seems to invite us to feel all these things we're not supposed to feel. You almost can't help feeling some perverse pleasure as you take in the sight of this voluptuous nude. You can't help partaking in some of that unwanted attention the farmer is paying to her. I mean, the way Benton painted everything in this canvas, from the leaves and grass to the trees and tree branches and sinuous lines coursing through the whole throbbing composition. Every inch of this painting is calculated to turn you on. The whole thing is like one quivering invitation to feast your eyes on this thing you feel you should not be looking at. Is that what is meant by the word voyeurism? You know, I've never really connected with that term because I typically don't feel bad about enjoying looking at something pleasant, especially an artwork, since an artwork is designed to be looked at. But this may be the one and only painting that I actually feel bad about how much I enjoy it. And for that, Thomas Hart Benton, I salute you. Again, if you appreciated this video, please like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton, and I really appreciate it if you do. Ciao for now.